Tout le monde est là? On peut commencer. Donc ce sera très informel, puis qui préfère même comme ça. Donc vous pourrez lui poser des questions à tout moment en anglais. Voilà, je vais lire mon petit discours. Donc, Luisa Souto de Moura, qui pour moi est Piki, est une jeune architecte qui commence sa carrière professionnelle dans l'atelier de Nuno Brandão Costa, en développant des projets avec un caractère marqué, que l'on connaît tous, de l'architecture portugaise. Elle a ensuite rejoint l'atelier de Eduardo Souto de Moura, lauréat du prix Pritzker 2011, où elle a travaillé jusqu'en 2017 comme directrice de projets internationaux dans des pays comme la France ou le Liban. Luisa Moura est avec nous cette semaine pour nous présenter cette conférence et aussi pour éventuellement corriger vos projets vendredi après-midi, donc soyez là. Luisa a étudié à la FAUP de 2000 à 2010, c'est à ce moment-là que je l'ai connue, quand j'étais étudiant Erasmus, donc je la connais depuis 20 ans. Et on enseigne projet d'architecture maintenant entre la lusófona de Porto et elle est prof invitée à Valence, à l'Universidade Europea. Elle fait actuellement un doctorat toujours à la lusófona et ces dernières années, elle a décidé de prendre un nouveau chemin dans sa carrière avec l'ouverture d'un hôtel, un très bel hôtel appelé Duas Portas, deux portes, face au fleuve Douro, et qui est devenu un des hôtels les plus accueillants et chaleureux de Porto, qui est devenu un rendez-vous maintenant pour nombreux architectes importants de passage à Porto. Luisa reste encore une architecte très active et qui en même temps la recherche fait aussi de nombreux projets, surtout de maisons. Elle va vous parler aujourd'hui de projets sur lesquels elle a travaillé. Il est impossible pour moi de ne pas parler de la famille et de l'arbre généalogique qui lie Luisa, ma vie et cette merveilleuse famille dont elle fait partie. Luisa est une de mes meilleures amies, en tout cas ma meilleure amie portugaise. C'est une famille qui en quelque sorte est aussi ma famille portugaise. Une famille merveilleuse et c'est une famille à laquelle je tiens beaucoup et donc c'est pour moi très important de la recevoir et je suis vraiment très heureux qu'on finisse plus ou moins cette année avec sa contribution. Elle est venue ici pour vous, donc profitez un peu de sa présence pour lui poser des questions et pour la voir vendredi après-midi avant qu'elle prenne son avion. Voilà. Donc je te laisse la parole, Piki, et soyez silencieux parce qu'il n'y a pas de micro. Approchez-vous si vous n'entendez pas, n'hésitez pas, elle voulait que ce soit informel, voilà, c'est le cas. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Gregorio. Hi everyone, thank you for this invitation, Gregorio. I'm super happy to be here. My first time in Belgium and in Brussels, and thank you for this. I like this informal meeting, and I would like you, if you want to ask something, you can interrupt me because I would prefer an informal model. So if you have any question, put your arm. So I'm going to present three works, three different kind of architecture, three completely different approaches in three different cities, three different programs and scales. I worked while I was in the office from 2013 till 2017. I don't know if you know Souto de Moura work from the beginning. I decided to focus more in these recent projects than the first projects because I think they are already published, so it's easy for you to find more information about that. I think you have an idea already about Portuguese architecture and all the context around the Porto School. Gregorio, I think you already have been visiting Porto last.
Yes, they went to Porto.
Okay, so you already have a glance of what is Portuguese architecture and especially Porto School, and probably you visit some of the early works of Souto de Moura. So I would like to focus on these three recent projects But I have to be very honest with you and telling that these 3 projects are the recent projects of a 40-year work. So to reach this kind of projects, there were 40 years of hard work, and these are very special projects because they have very special demands, clients, unlimited budgets, and I don't want to give you the idea that this is the normal practice of architecture, because it's not. What is doing architecture today is very hard, and for most of people, myself included, it's very, to do it in a good way, it's very hard, and sometimes difficult to find your way on doing that. So the first one I'm going to present is a house in Zagreb in Croatia. This was a demand from a private client, but who asked us to do it was a local architecture studio. And this was a very polemic project because it was in the Zagreb city center, and it was very polemic how to build a new building in this area. This is the main shopping street in Zagreb, Preradoviseva Street, and this was a demand for a single house for a client. Here we can see the plots, and the main concern was how to build a family house in a plot with a scale of multi-family housing. So that's a little bit strange how you can be able to do that, because it was huge. It was a huge plot for just a single family house. So that's the first concern we have. Then we have another concern. It was the street was and all the neighborhood blocks were very beautiful neoclassical buildings with very delicate decorations, Viennese style, all in brick, and then with beautiful plaster work. And of course, as Portuguese architects, we were very, very delighted with this atmosphere around. So the first, and then there was something very special on this site. It was this brick gable walls with some overlapping of the different times, and you can see the different heights of old pre-existing buildings. So we were obviously very delighted with this existing elements, and we start to work based on the first to respect this scale of the existing houses. Then we were in love with this brick thing, very natural on this place, that you can feel the different times and the different layers of the city, and we start to work with very carefully respecting all these elements, the way to build next to. And we start to have, these were the first sketches, and it's obvious this concern with the join between the new and the old, the high alignment, some important elements as the cornice of the existing buildings. So this was the beginning of the project, and the one of the first things it was for the client was he was very concerned with the privacy. So all the house is open to an inside garden and close to the outside, except the ground floor. As you can see, this ground floor It's completely open to the street with a single glass frame, because this client was a big art collector. He has a beautiful art collection from Croatian artists, and somehow he wanted to share this art collection with the city and its people. So it's in the position of a very close family house to inside garden. There was this will of open its art collection to the outside. So the house was organized in these 3 volumes, open to this inside garden with a huge tree. The idea is that to have in the middle of this tree like a vase, and then all the house was developed around that. The other thing that it was very important was the question about the material and this idea of the brick. And this was the starting point, deciding the building material. And then after this, we found that it was hard to build over a cantilever building with brick. So naturally, we start to choose another option of material, and we start to use concrete. But I'm going to explain better soon. So here we have the view from the sky with a tree and all the volumes around it. And here a view from the outside with the gallery. The most important piece in his art collection was this beautiful bull. I think it was in the real scale, and it was an amazing piece. So I'm going to explain a little bit of the program. How does it work? So this is the ground floor. Can you see my mouse? Yes. So ground floor, we have 2 entries. One entry from the street by foot directly to the art gallery, and then car entry to the backyard with a parking covered outside but covered parking, and this entrance with a staircase and a lift. And between these 2 entries, we have a wine cellar, a toilet, and a technical room. So here is a view of the gallery. There is a mezzanine on the other side. This is a view from the parking lot to the car entrance, and here the second entrance that is going to be used in the daily life of the family. So this is the second floor. It's a technical floor, has the gallery mezzanine that can work as an office or to expose more smaller artworks. And then we have HVAC technical room, service bedroom, storage, laundry, and the swimming pool tank. Here is the corridor that accesses all the rooms. And then we have the social room, the social floor with the garden, and all the house is open to this garden. On this side we have living room, kitchen, and on this side we have an indoor swimming pool with sauna and toilets here. This is a view from the living area to the kitchen, which is open but you can't see because we have this cupboard. This is a view from the garden to the living room, and the opposite side, a view to the swimming pool. And here the swimming pool that you can open all the windows in order to connect with the garden. And finally, the last floor is a more private floor with 3 bedrooms and a studio and 2 terraces that over the living area and the swimming pool for this family, because they like gardening. So this was a way of them to plant different kinds of plants on this terrace. This is an image from the studio and one bedroom, and here from the outside to their interior. And this like this big vase for them to plant. So this is a section, and this can explain the structure of this house. It's a mixed structure between concrete, reinforced concrete on the first 3 floors, around like a vase, a huge vase for this tree. And then the last floor is a lighter structure, a metal structure with a compositive slab. And we start to find that this brick solution, it wasn't be able to work in a cantilever volume. So we start to work on a material, and then developing the project, we find out the material was not compatible with the form of the building. It could be, but we need to have a huge metal beam to support all the brick around. So, and we had to have inside a second structure with concrete. So we gave up about this romantical idea of the brick, the local reference, and we start to work in a more pragmatic structure. And it was a reinforced concrete structure with double walls. So we have a first wall, the real structure wall, and then a second one, it's with around, I think, 25 to 30 centimeters thick, and then a second concrete wall, a finishing wall with around 15 centimeters. Here you can see this is the main structure wall in concrete with some how can I say, ramps, hooks to support the second finishing wall, also in concrete. As you can see here, we have a close-up of this concrete. At the end, it's very similar with the texture and the color of the brick. So this reference of the brick, it is very present during the development of the project. And it was a major concern because the client was very, very demanding about the formwork joints. He was completely obsessed that concrete shouldn't have these marks. And it's crazy because it's natural of the material, the way you build, to have this kind of joints, and it's difficult to avoid. It's impossible to avoid it. But for us, that was a challenge to deal with that, because we all the time the office built in concrete, all these joints were assumed, and it was they are used like they are plastic characteristics. So we start to work with this new kind of concrete, and here we have another close-up. We start to decide which surfaces had different textures and why, and then we start this work. You can see here perfectly this difference between the two concretes, the one who is going to be seen and the other one who is not going to be seen, and different kind of work. Here you can see the second structure, much more lighter, that's metal structure, and this work over the material was really demanding. So we built a prototype, we can see here, to study the different kinds of ways to finish concrete. So we make this prototype to combine a lot of options for the pigments, the aggregate grading, the kind of finish, if it was hammered, it was a sandblast, mechanical sandblast, the kind of formwork, joints, the concrete with retarder, how we could use this retarder or not, or how could it work better in a way or in another way. And also the waterproof coating. We tried like 1,000 of different combinations with these variants of the same material. At the end, you have 1,000 of kinds that you can do this. But this was very, very interesting. This is a very delicate work that we have a lot of. It's like a privilege to be able to do it, because most of people are in a rush and say we have to build fast, and the client could say I don't have time for you to try all these options. But this client, we can see here, the client with the architect was really focused on doing something really special. Here we have an image of this. You can see here the difference between this hand-hammered finish and the not finish concrete. Here you can see the guy with the hammer that's work all around the two facades. But then we find that we have a huge problem with this kind of finishing. We need to solve the corner, because you are working on the concrete and the corner can disappear with this kind of work. So we had to make a double corner with a negative on the formwork, as you can see here, in order to be able to hand hammer it and to still have the perfect corner. So this was to find this, we had to try different thicknesses, how was the perfect thickness to the guy then to hand hammered the two surfaces. So regarding other issue that was a huge concern for the client was the noise, especially the HVAC RUID, the noise that usually air conditioner has, like, and he was obsessed also with that. So we study a lot of different combinations of different systems. At the end, we find a solution, super complex solution. I have to say that before this house, I had worked in schools, museums, and this for me was one of the difficult projects to coordinate because it was really demanding. And for instance, HVAC was 3 systems altogether. We have a heating floor, cooling ceiling, and then we have a problem with moisture. So we had to have air insufflation, you can see here, a grid to maintain the levels of humidity on the air, because the heating floor and the ceiling, the cooling ceiling would dry too much the air. It could become super bad for your comfort. So this was a huge thing to work on this, because the client wouldn't have the normal air conditioner system. So we had to develop this system, and of course a more conventional system on the swimming pool with insufflation and extraction on the other hand. But to have this kind of 2 systems, you have to double all the machines and you have to double all the technical areas. So that's why we have a technical floor that is mostly occupied with machines and all that stuff. So now, regarding to finishings, we also have a lot of concern that this was a very balanced option of the materials. We study a lot of options. We didn't want to have a very cold interior. We would like to have a mix between cold materials and warm materials. So we start with some stones, with some basalts. I'm going to show you. So the ground floor, we have basaltina stone in the interior, and here we have a Etna basalt. Yes.
I think we have the same question over here, but why the column?
Okay, this comes from, this is a joke, this is an irony. This comes from an old house that it was built in the 80s, one of Souto de Moura's first houses. It's a house in Quinta do Lago, in Algarve. I don't know if you know that work. It's a table, a white table, with some volumes over it, with a dome and a pyramid. I don't know if you know that house. It's one of the first projects. And in that time, the structure was like all the bedrooms. So you have a span of 3 meters. It was okay. But then on the living room, face to the swimming pool, there was a span of 6 meters, 7 meters. And the engineering told, look, I'm not able to do with a very thin slab without any beam. I'm not able to do this huge span. And it was a nightmare for the architects. I said, I don't want to have a pillar on the middle of the living room. I don't want anything. I want completely free view for the garden and for the swimming pool. And this was in a meeting, and then each one, the architect and the engineering, start to work by themselves, working on this space. The architect thought, I have to have this. I'm going to work with the existing pillar, and I'm going to make the best living room, but with these supporting elements. And he started to work. He built a dome over the living room. That is half sphere that you have on the outside. And on the other hand, the consultants start to work in a solution to have that huge span. At the end, they met again, and the engineering told, Eduardo, I was able to solve the span without any support elements. And he said, damn, I'm completely decided to use a pillar on the living room, because it's going to organize the space in 2 different spaces. Dining room, living room, and the dome and the support element organizing this space. And he said, but you don't need. So in that house, they built the pillar, and at the end, the pillar doesn't touch the ceiling. So this is like a irony, a memory about that. This is a huge span. This is a very complex structure, and this is like a joke, irony. So that's why. And he uses these elements in some of his projects like this, for you to be able to see how big it's that cantilever with any support. That's why. So I was in the talking about the material. So we have here Etna basalt on the floor. And then inside we have this basaltina stone. I think it's Italian stone. Both of them are Italian. Croatia is very close to Italy, so there is a close relation between these 2 countries. Especially, I think they have a very close relation, especially with Venice. Then this was the ground floor. Then we have the biggest glass in Zagreb. It is a huge glass. It was a problem, the logistics to transport this piece to the site. As you can see, the transit had to be cut, and it was crazy. We had to have a lot of lorries transportation to transport the glass, and it's at the end the dimension is 10 meters and a half to 2 meters and almost 2 meters and 70 centimeters and almost 50 centimeters of thickness. It's crazy. I have to say, the first glass broke during the transportation. They had to make a new one. And this was like one of the most difficult things to work with. So all the house is built with the industrial frame, aluminum minimum frame, and then it's combined with stainless steel elements. Here we can see a sliding window frame, and then it's combined with a pivoting door, metal, stainless steel door. On the upper level, we have Venetian blinds in the exterior, aluminum too. Then we had several problems, practical problems to solve. This one is our floors have 280 or 3 meters high, and the project was developed with the pivoting doors. So we have here a huge problem, because you can't do this kind of door very high. Usually you use in Porto 250 is the maximum to have this kind of solution. And here we have this problem. And then they had to reinforce all the doors inside with metal reinforce for them to avoid them to wrap. So also this was something that we were going to the extreme point of the material and of the solution, but at the end it worked. And I was a little bit concerned if they were going to be super heavy, but it worked, and it was okay. The daily use of this kind of elements. This is very important for us. This balance between, and I have to say, this balance between the language and the form and the daily use of them. We don't believe that a person has to be a slave of architect's will and architect's style or language or form. So this has to be a balance between both. And this is the more difficult thing dealing with a client, is how I'm going to deal with his demands and my will and my way of seeing and doing architecture. And it's a hard dispute between. But at the end, I think the best buildings and works are the perfect balance between these two forces. So other problem we find, it was the gable walls. They were in really bad shape. The client was super concerned that they were fell inside that beautiful brick walls we saw. So we had to rebuild the neighborhood walls. This one, there was an existing chimney. We rebuilt with the bricks the chimney, the existing one, and at the end, we find that this is a completely different building on the street, but you can feel a respect and a connection with what is going around it. And this, I think the client is super happy, because he's inside of the house with his family, super private. No one can see what is happening inside the house. And then I think this, not because of the art collection is being shared, but because I think this is a good achieve for this street. And it was a little bit polemic, because some people thought that this should be a replica of an existing building. So at the end, it was not easy to convince the heritage local authorities, but I think it was a good work. So, next project I will present to you is a completely different project in Porto, and it's a project, interior project, in an existing building, a complex building that the office had built a few years before. So here you have the main avenida in Porto, Avenida da Boa Vista. I think you probably have been in the end of this avenue in Rotunda da Boa Vista, where is Casa da Música from Rem Koolhaas. Did you saw it? And on one limit is this Rotunda da Boa Vista, this round. On the other one, you have the sea. So it connects these 2 points of the city here. And this was a housing complex that was built some years before, a patio house complex. And then the last part of the plot here, it was a service and a commercial building. So here we have 3 kinds of patio houses. You can see here type A, B, and C. This is a sloppy plot. So all these different kinds of houses work with different levels, and their connection is quite different. And then the last one here is this service and commercial block. This is the ground floor plan. This is very simple. There are a few of shops on the ground floor, and then the upper floor had some offices, like some boxes that are placed on a big table. This is a Le Corbusier thing. Also, that Quinta do Lago house I was telling about. It's this kind of principle to have a very stable volume that then you can have some exceptional elements over it. And here is this is you can see here the existing patio houses, and then this much more regular, and now this table with these boxes that seem to be dancing on this table. Here you can see this is a very strong element on this avenue. It's super long, and our demand was to build a real estate office here. It's here, this one. And we have a very, very long and narrow space with 2 facades. And we decide to make an open space to have natural light in all the compartments, and to have the idea that you can feel that it was a long, very long space with the light at this end. So we develop partition structure, an element that is this partition wall that doesn't touch the floor, has some punctual supporting elements that are painted in blue, so you can't distinguish the blue from the carpet and this supports elements, and they never touch the ceiling. These panels have 2.2 meters, and then this was very important for this kind of business to have privacy, and we faced this problem. How can we solve this privacy problem? Because when you are negotiating and dealing with a real estate, you talk about money, you talk about your family, your wife you are going to divorce. So they are very particularly chats on this kind of business. So this was a huge concern to them, and we had to solve. And we had two different strategies to do it. The first one was to all the existing surface to become the most absorbent, sound absorbent as possible. The other, and you see, we have carpet on the floor. We have these panels that I'm going to show you in the next slides. They are absorbent panels, and the ceiling and some part of the walls are in a kind of mineral wool with paper plaster. I don't know if you ever know this kind of material. It's a very soft material. You can't touch because it's not. Makes this a massa, ou seja, não é duro. Forma, yes. If you touch with some, it's going to deform. So our concern, you can never be able to touch this kind of finish. It has to be up and on the ceiling. And so on one hand, we had this strategy to use the most absorbent materials. On the other, but it wasn't enough at the end. And the other strategy was working with an acoustic consultant that developed a system called mask system, which I've never heard before, but it's like you have a constant sound like water or wind, like a shh, and it masks the conversation. You can't understand, you can listen, but you can't understand the conversation. So we develop all this idea. Here you can see this is a living area. Here is we have a little kitchen for the workers, and the bathroom. This one is not open, has ceiling, and this the height of this panel is the minimum height you need to use on a bathroom or in a small kitchen. Here you can see these panels have they are like a grid, and to absorb the sounds and to cut the sounds. Here another image. Here you can see this the support painted in blue. That at some point you are not aware of that. Here we develop we decide all the furniture, and then we design some of the pieces. This is a lamp that we design. And this is another cupboard that we had designed, and also the working tables were designed. It was an existing design for another project that then we changed all the finishings in order to be more warm on this interior. At the end, this sound system didn't work at all. So it was a mess because people said we don't want to work with the wind or with the sea. This is not working. The clients don't feel comfortable not because they are listening, but because it's open. So it's like a feeling of an open space, and no one was. This was not working, and sometimes this happens. You can have good ideas, you can have wonderful, beautiful places, but sometimes they don't work, and we have to be able to deal with that. And it's important to deal with this failure sometimes. So we had to give a solution to them. The solution was very simple. They had a budget and a timetable problem, so this has to be a very, very simple solution that took a week or took 2 weeks maximum to do it. So we kept all the structure, and on this part of the shop, we had to close with walls to the ceiling. So you still feel this open space on this area, and we move the meeting rooms to be completely closed. So we are still waiting if they want to move forward with this or not, because they say, oh, but we like this to be an open space. We don't like these closed rooms. But it doesn't work. You have to decide if you want a beautiful space that you don't like and your clients don't feel safe, or if you want to have this romantic thing. So this is important to share, because sometimes you have to be able to deal with failure, and it's good. It's good for you to face that and to be able to solve. And it happens a lot. So our office has a huge practice. We have 40 years, hundreds of built works, and sometimes this happen, and it's going to happen in the future for sure. But and that's why I like to share the good and the bad, because this happens a lot. So the last project I will show is another completely different approach. It is an installation, an art installation. We were invited to be part of an exhibition called Sensing Spaces in the Royal Academy of Arts. It was an exhibition with other architects, very good architects, such as Álvaro Siza, Kengo Kuma, the Chilean Pezovan Elrishan. I think I can say like this. It's different, but I don't know how to say it. Francis Carey, this year's Pritzker Prize that we met there, and then I will show you something very beautiful, and others. And the idea was that Grafton, the Irish architects, and the idea was to develop an art installation in this beautiful neoclassical building in the center of London, to develop an installation that could share your practice as an architect. This is quite difficult, but interesting, because it's a little bit strange. The practice of an architect, which can be something very objective, very plain, to be transformed in an art installation, which is everything but not objective, and it's an art installation. Even the artists are discussing what is installation. So, but it was a good challenge, so we were really excited. We went there, we visited this building, and we found a neoclassical building, very classical compartition, square rooms without any corridors. So it's like they are a succession of spaces, and we were very, very classical elements, the ceilings, the opening elements, and we start to walking through these galleries. This building was built to be a museum, to be an art gallery from the beginning. So we start to move around, and then we find that through these very regular spaces, there was some natural axis, 45 degrees axis between the rooms. So in a point, you could see 4 or 5 rooms from a diagonal, because all these rooms have an open hole that could link to the other rooms. And that was amazing, because you were able to see 5 rooms far from there. And we were really exciting of this dynamic inside a very static space that apparently was very static. And we start to go and to try to see are you able to see me? And we cross and we find some relations, beautiful relations on this space between the different rooms. And then we were excited with this and said, how can we put this on a form, an objective, something? And we find out that we use an element that is the more primary element in architecture, which is the door, or the hall, or the open, and it is something very important to Souto de Moura's work. He's struggling with this thing of the door as a whole or as a plan. So this stereotomic fight between doing like abstract language or non-abstract language since his first works. So he's a little bit obsessed with this thing of the window, the hole on the wall, or if I have a negative, positive glass wall. And so this is very, very important to him. So he decided to use this element of the door as like an incitement of these diagonals. And we start to work as this element, as the incitation of this diagonals, this axis. And so we use this element as the element that turns on the space and gives you this alignment. And so we start to work as a negative of the existing arches, doors, with 4 centimeters concrete in order to organize this connection. We work on 2 different openings, the one bigger with an arch and another one smaller with a square. And we start to develop this element, this concrete element. It's a super developed technology that I never heard before. It's called UHPRC. It means ultra high performance reinforced concrete. And it's like it uses a metal mesh inside to reinforce this super thin 4 centimeters concrete. We work directly with a precast company that was developed this kind of technology. They already had doing some urban elements like benches and tables to the outside with this kind of solution. And but they were small. They were 70 centimeters high or 45 centimeters high. They never work with 3 meters high. So this was a big challenge for them. And we start this process. This was a process. I'm going to show you some of these parts because I think it's important for you to understand the complexity of something like this. So the first thing we start, it was to make a survey of the existing door. So it was hard to make this very, very delicate element survey. We had to do it, and we had to draw all these elements. And we have another, we can see here on this sketch, we had another problem. It was the platform who took the elements from the ground floor to the exhibition floor. So we had a hydraulic platform with this 2.15 per 310. So we have to be able to put all the pieces here on this rectangle, to go up from the lorry to the exhibition room. So we start to work. We make this very delicate drawings. For this company was hard to deal because they were used to deal with much more rude forms. Usually these kind of companies, they build some panels that they have nothing special, or they built that condutas de água, how can I say, water and sewage elements in precast concrete. So it's like not very delicate way of work, but they were really focused on doing this, and they were really hardworking team. So this is the biggest arch. This is the prototype, and then the smaller one. And we had a huge problem. The formwork, we had to build the formwork, and usually the formwork carpenters don't have the tools to make such a delicate curves. So we had to ask to furniture makers that have much more accurate tools to work with to make the formwork. So this was the first step. We print, as you can see, all the drawings in the real scale, 1:1, for them to then, with the MDF and some wood, to build this frame. It was super nice because it was a couple, wife and husband. You can see here the wife. And they were really committed with this. It was very, very interesting to visit this process. Then we weren't able to see the process of putting the cement inside, but then they invite us, the exhibition curator who came from London to Porto, and Álvaro Siza, who also was participating on this project. They invite us, and it was like a performance. It was in the middle of the factory, the precast factory, and it was like a pilgrim, like a religious holiday. Yeah, it was amazing. So we were all expecting this piece. We make this was a prototype. Then they rebuilt a second one, and it came these two guys holding the arch, and there was the two supports were already. You can see here how delicate was the curves and all this drawing, and then they put the final piece on the two supports, and it was like everyone was like, whoa, it's going to happen, this maybe it's going to fall down, we don't know, but at the end it works really well. Here you can see this is Álvaro Siza and Kate Goodwin. She was the exhibition curator seeing, and you can see the scale and the dimension of this arch. It was huge. So we were really happy with that, and we were never expecting this monumentally of this piece. It was a surprise for us. Then we had a small problem with the English insurance, because they argued that this was not enough stable to be in a public exhibition. So they told us, this is okay, it's going to work, but if someone goes against the arch, maybe it can fall apart, and the insurance company will not cover this. So we had to use some easels, some metal easels, to be completely sure that that the arch is not going to dance. So we designed some metal easels to guarantee to the insurance company that nothing was going to happen. This was hard. Not to produce the arches, but it was very hard to assembly and part of logistics, because they didn't allow that Portuguese company went to London to assembly the pieces. It was a local expert team that had to do it. So after to develop the piece, we had to develop a logistics project. to be sure that everything went well. For you to have an idea, the lorries couldn't have like 2 hours per night to access this building. So it was super bureaucratic process because we only have 2 hours to access from the lorry who came from Portugal. He had to wait till it was able to transport it till the museum. So everything had to be studied from the beginning. We had to study the packaging. This is inside the lorry that took from Porto till London. And then we had to make a new project, like an IKEA manual, how to assemble these pieces. And this is, I felt really proud of this. I remember to think this is not a Portuguese manual. This is like a Swedish manual. Like this is super well organized. I was really, really proud of that. And then this, as you can see, it's all detailed. The kind of material you need, how you are going to put the box to take out the support pieces. This is from the smaller arch, the square one, and this more complex for the round arch. And then I flight to London because I had to check how I was going. I was really curious how the English guys were able to make it. So I flight there. I was not able to do anything. Here are. And they start to assembly all the pieces. Here you can see. And then at the end, I found one of the boxes had written Portugal 5, England 0, like a match results. And I said, and what were the local guys from the factory were pissed because they weren't able to go to London, and they wrote on the boxes this. I was really ashamed. I don't know if the English team was able to understand that, but it was crazy. I was really, oh my God, shame. Everything was so Swedish, and at the end, they write on the box, Portugal 5, England 0. But at the end, the English were able to do it really in a good way, and this was the final result of the exhibition. Then something very special happened. On these meetings in London, we met Francis Carey. We never met him before, and we immediately like each other. We went after the meetings. We went to have dinner, and then we found out that his project was an arch, a tunnel with an arch, which connect exactly one of our rooms to the other one. This big arch with a square one. So it was so special to discover this. It was really that kind of things that happen a few times in your work, but at the end it was the perfect match between three rooms and two architects, two artists, and two works, completely different works. His tunnel was this tunnel was made with palhinha straw, plastic straw. I don't know the straw palhinha. In plastic, and this was the desperdício, the rest of doing these plastic straws. It was amazing, and then you pass through the tunnel and you put the straw on the holes, the little holes of these plastic parts. So it was a wonderful experience. And so that's it. I hope you had enjoyed. I hope it was too long or not. No? Okay.
Would like to have Des questions? Yeah.
Merci pour votre présentation. Et je voudrais revenir sur le portugais, etc. Avec le journalisme critique, etc. Et je voulais savoir qu'est-ce qu'il en était dans ce projet-là et est-ce qu'il y a vraiment la manière de construire à Zagreb, c'est ça? Est-ce qu'elle a été prise en compte? Est-ce qu'on a regardé comment étaient les plans, les coupes, etc. des bâtiments qui sont aux alentours? Ou bien, je voulais comprendre plutôt le contexte, enfin, le lien qu'avait le bâtiment avec le contexte existant directement. E quel lien que foi?
Entendeste tudo?
Eu quero saber porque é que, num contexto de regionalismo crítico,
Porque é que não se vocês estudaram a arquitetura de Zagreb, o que está ao redor, enfim.
sim, e depois porque é que optamos por uma coisa.
Então, international.
Because I'm going to explain. There is a huge discussion because of Frampton's critique regionalism. I have to tell you that most of Portuguese architects don't agree with this view. It was an important view in that time. I think it was the 70s, 80s? 80s, early 80s.
It was a reaction to Portugueses now.
Okay, very early 80s.
Yeah, 81, 82.
Yeah. And most of Portuguese architects, especially from Porto School, don't agree with this label. They feel that they are not regionalists, they are much more international critics. So they feel they are much more modern than and universal than local. That's the thing. And it was super important. Some things that happened in the 60s, 70s in Portugal, and for them, especially for Eduardo Souto de Moura, it was really important. I don't know if you ever heard Inquérito da Arquitetura Portuguesa. It was a survey that architecture students made all over Portugal, each group for each region. It was a survey of the local traditional constructions, and it was super important in that time for the architects because they were able to learn that local architecture was working in perfect condition and could be a way to do the modern architecture. Because Portugal didn't have the means, the tools, the materials, the technology to build modern. We didn't have concrete, we didn't have steel, we didn't have a lot of materials that you need to build modern. When I say modern, I say international style. So they start to use this kind of knowledge and local tools to build. But their true will, I think, it's to work as a global way. Okay? And I think they are super concerned about the local references. We study all these kind of structures, these brick structures with plaster. And this was very important to develop the project. The project never should be the same if it was built in another context than this context, I'm sure. The thing is, I think they, especially Souto de Moura and also Alvarocisa, they are not interested in the repeat and copy what they have. They want to make something very, very connected with the existing, but not the same. That's why. And I think this building is completely out of the box in terms of form, but if you pay attention, the scale, you keep the same scale, you keep the same atmosphere with the color, and it's completely integrated. And it's at the same time, it's a completely different form of what you have around. So I think this is not regionalism critic, and I think Souto de Moura's work is not based on that. It's much more as Cohen. Do you know Cohen? No? Cohen, it's another theoretical, it's a guy who studies a lot Le Corbusier. He writes and studies a lot Le Corbusier work. And he's a guy that he thinks that the Portuguese architecture is much more international critic than
Regional.
Yeah. And I think this can be a good explanation for what we are.
But also, if you look the facade of this building, there are a lot of little details that we don't even see at the beginning that are really related to the facades were next to it, the alignment,
It's very careful the way that touches the existing buildings and the alignments. If you can see here. All the alignments respect the neighbor gable walls. The way that touches the. Let me see if I have here from. See. We maintain the draining tubes. That is very important here to keep this metric, and also this color. And I think it can be a good solution for you to be balanced, but at the same point, it's completely different.
And also the fact that it's solid. You know, it's not a high-tech project, or it's still a project of walls, isn't it?
Was I clear on my answer to your question?
D'autres questions?
I'm going. For Eduardo Souto de Moura's work, one of the most important things is how two elements or two materials touch. So the joint for him, it's an important theme. He never joins two different elements or materials like this. He has always a strategy to make a third element or a whole between them. So this is a very important thing to him. He would never have to have two different plans touching like this. So he thinks it's more delicate and more strong to have them separate. This is like a gargoyle. Yes, it's a kind of gargoyle, exactly. That's why.
But returning to this aspect of the critical regionalism, or whatever they call it, at the same time, it's not. It is a school that is extremely sensitive to the city and to morphology and so on.
Yes.
And the last example you show of the door is very clear on that sense, because it's really discourse also what you were saying about window, door, wall,
whole neoplastic language,
exactly.
Traditional, classical,
the decoration, etc. All this is present in the work. So
yes.
It's, at the same time, it's a culturalized international criticism.
Of course.
And it's critic in that sense. It's a very interesting.
Let me tell you
definition.
something about that, because I think it's important to share with you. This international criticism of the Portuguese architects, there is a turning point between the regionalism critic and this aspect. Eduardo Souto de Moura, I'm not sure if I agree with that, but I can accept this speech. He says that if you are doing a small-scale project, such a house, or you can use this local reference. The materials the scale, the elements, traditional elements, local materials. And he says this works super well. If you see the small scale projects, it works. The thing is when you have to work in a bigger scale. And this kind of approach doesn't give you the tools to work in a bigger scale, an urban scale, or even a big building, equipamento. This scale doesn't allow you to do that. Or if it does, it's ridiculous. It's not going to work because it's a very small scale approach. It's a process that you can use in building a house or two houses. But then if you have to build a library or an hospital, it's hard to deal with that. So you have to jump this local thing and you have to open that. And that happens I think this happens in the 80s, 90s, and it's the exact point that Portugal is part of EU and you have globalization. So at the end, you can't be completely focused on your country, your way of doing. So it's very important to do this balance, to be able to work. As Álvaro Siza, for me, he is the best because he goes to Holland and he does in a Dutch way, best way, better than the local Dutch architects. He goes to China and he builds the most wonderful buildings in China in a Chinese eye. So
same for Brazil.
The same from Brazil, exactly. Really and that's the thing I think it's super, super wonderful. It's to have this international dash local
culturalized,
yeah. But this thing about the scale, it's very important for you to be aware, and for especially for Souto de Moura, this jump from the small scale to the bigger scale was a huge change on his process. It was because for many years his work was only single houses. For I think the first 15 years of his work, he only built houses, and then in a certain point he started to have urban projects, bigger projects, and the mindset I think changed a lot with that.
It was the Casa da Cultura, but this was still
small. No, Casa da Cultura was one of the first projects, but it's so small that it's like a big house, not a big scale project. I think there were a few of projects like Metro do Porto, like the Matosinhos Seaside, Estádio do Braga, of course, that make like a change on the process.
But his favorite architect is Aldo Rossi.
Along with Álvaro Siza.
Obviously, yeah, but Álvaro is still alive.
Aldo Rossi was super important to him.
Sure, yeah, and Távora also.
Yes, but Aldo Rossi was like
alive. Álvaro is still there. So.
Aldo Rossi was very, very important to him, especially the theoretical work, more than the projects. Yeah. Oh yes.
Maybe I have a question. I didn't know that the office did some artwork, so
yeah.
I was wondering if it's quite exceptional or something like it's happening for open.
No, we have a lot of artwork installations. A lot, I can say. I don't know why. I think now because we are trying to, the culture tries to mix this installation thing, but we have a few artworks. We have the last ones. We have Domus. But do you know Domus magazine, Italian? We have a pavilion for Domus. After these arches, the doors work, we have another work. I don't know if it was here in Belgium. It was an art collector with a huge forest, and he wanted to develop artworks in the middle of the forest, and we made something very similar to this. We also have another Vatican chapel for the Biennale. I don't know, 6 years before.
It was
18.
2018.
We participate in this Vaticano. Vaticano asks two different architects to build a chapel on an island on Venice. And before that, we also participate with an installation, again, around this window theme in Venice. So we have a few works. Of course, they are all very connected with our daily concern as an architect. So the themes are always around this theme about the window, the frame, the hole on the wall, the gravity. It's other. So there is a other installation. It was in Portugal that are 3 pyramids inverted in 3 materials, in glass, metal, and the other one in concrete. And some are in this position and some are completely in the inverse, like it's like a irony regarding the materials and their gravity. So we have, I think we have like a set of artworks, yeah, all the time very connected with architecture.
Because there is also this question of autonomy, no, that is very present in Eduardo's work. Like, for example, when he puts the house, this project of the house
Upside
down, which is almost an artistic point of view, no?
I think it's like more a statement. This is a very interesting theme because I didn't know this, but there is a natural thing for the architects, and if you know Herzog and de Moura work, he has a constant theme that is the traditional house image, with a roof. And if you study Herzog's work, this is like an obsession all along its work, and this is also to Souto de Moura an obsession, as it was for Aldo Rossi too. I think there is a big connection with this image of the house, and in that case, this is like an inversion of this traditional image of the stable house with the
yeah.
And he also has a lot of projects based on this theme, inverting, falling apart, these images, and he collects images of this all over the magazines and the newspapers. Every time he sees an image that is related to this childish way of seeing the house, he collects. He's very, very focused on that. And sometimes he works based on that. But that's something that probably comes out this Rossi heritage. I never thought this, but there is a huge connection between Herzog and Rossi's from that years. It was in ETH.
Because
he was also teaching there.
Yeah, and they were also very obsessed with this. Rossi,
yeah. That's why I think they got really close friends, because they have this thing of Aldo Rossi in common. And in the beginning of Herzog works, this is very, very present.
And they are also international critics in a way.
Yes. Yeah. This was also very important to Eduardo Souto de Moura, this thing of traveling and this approach to Swiss architecture was really important to him and gave him a tool, exactly the tool that he didn't need this local language, because there was something different than that he could use. And there are some projects, medium scale projects, that he uses this strategy of the skins and the surface. That is something that came from the Swiss architecture that he started to use on his projects, medium scale projects. and it's a big change. Yes.
Maybe it's a little bit different, but I wanted to ask if you have like a favorite project from those 40 years of the school, and if there is one project that is like more accomplished for you.
Yes, I have. It's the thing. I think it's the better for me the better answer to a problem as a result to solve a problem. For me, it's Braga, Estádio de Braga, Braga Stadium. I think it's my favorite one. Yeah.
There's a question. What's the relation from your office to the hand drawing? Do you still use it?
Super. Not only the office, but all the Porto school. It's very, very connected with hand drawing. I think it's the main tool, along with the maquette model. I think it's super, super, super important, and all the education is based on that. Sometimes I'm a little bit critic about that because we have this exact same formation for the first year is the exact same as the students that have in painting and sculpture in the Beaux-Arts school. So I think sometimes it's too demanding. For me, who I'm awful drawing, hand drawing, for me it was hard to deal with that. And then I learned that I didn't need to have beautiful drawings. I need to have drawings that solve my problems at that moment. And that's, you have to be able to explain that drawing is not to produce beautiful drawings. It's to solve your problems, your concerns in certain projects. But even for me, which I'm traumatized with that, I use it. That's my main tool that I use. So it's for all the architects that study in Porto School. This is like the one of the major tools that we can use.
Thank you very much, Vicky.
Thank you.
Wonderful.